There's the right key. Good morning. All right. Back to Daily Jewel. Just checking out some of our storybook stuff. Most of which was built out. I built out before I started streaming these coding, doing these coding streams. But probably, I think where we left off last time was we were working on this pull request, which is essentially what we've been doing all these coding streams. Uh, Working on converting everything to use Redux, as the title of the pull request says. And we kind of wrapped that up in terms of identifying all the files that needed to be changed and changing them. It looks like we have a couple of our tests that are failing. So I thought that would be probably a good place to start today's stream. And then we can go from there to some of the things that are in the backlog. I know last stream there were a couple of bugs or incomplete functionality that I spotted. So we'll see. I'm thinking we might be able to do 2 or all 3 of these today. But before we do that, we need to finish the current work. And so there's a couple of issues here. So we have quick add basic component error. So I think we, whoops. So let's see, page evaluate, view and storybook. Well, we have storybook open locally. So let's look at that there. So this is quick add. I think we saw this too when we were looking that some of the things are simply not wrapped in a provider. I think they weren't wrapped in anything before either, for that matter. So without, a some kind of provider, a Redux one or the other one, these things are not going to load at all. And so Chromatic is detecting that this is throwing an error and saying, "Oh, your build's not good." So let's look at fixing that. I also this morning changed my changed back. I don't remember, but when I upgraded VS Code this morning, it said something about a new theme, and I clicked it, and then I switched to this theme, which I'm using elsewhere. I don't remember if this is the Solarized Dark theme was what I was using in past streams, but this is the one I like, so I switched to that, and also got a little icon theme going as well. Little jest icons. Interesting. Anyway, getting distracted. What was he doing? Right, so we're looking for where this quick add story is, and so that's inside of pages. Quick add stories.tsx. Right, so I think we might have, let me load this up again, there we go. This computer doesn't have the extension that I'm used to that shows me my Git history kind of in the background on these things. But anyway, I think what we need to do is we probably just need to find one of the other places where we're wrapping the components in a provider. Surely there's an example of that somewhere. Here we go. Now if I'm going to do this, do I want to just extract out this piece? And where would I even put it? Where indeed? So I think I have other decorators in preview.tsx. Like here. Could I move the decorator into here? Would that cause me issues? Oops, I lost that. I need to go back to stories. Yeah. So this is using use effect and then fetch settings. So we could like take this and put this into here as well. And so then it should be the case that pretty much all of our components will have this this context, if you will, because the page should be dispatching fetch settings. So I don't feel too bad about having a decorator here. Let's see. Yeah, let's do this. So we'll do something like function with store. That's something. Not what I want though. I think we just want this bit. And then we'll grab that there. And then we just need to import all the things that we need. Right, this doesn't know. Is it that path? I guess so. What else are we missing? Fetch settings and use effect. We can probably do that. And there we go. And then we can just remove decorators from here and remove these extra imports. So we haven't fixed this yet. We'll come back. Well, maybe it's fixed. No. Okay, so let's go to settings though. Could not find React Redux. Oh, right. So good. Yes. So this change to add to preview.tsx would have fixed quick add if I would have actually added the with store, which is unused, to the decorators, right? So if we add that there, there we go. And then it's loading again. So we go over to quick add. Hey, that works now. So what was the other one that's broken right now? Edit consumption. Okay. Controls. I guess we don't have a lot in the way of controls here. Also, I think we can just remove anywhere we're doing adding a decorator to the meta for the story. At least for now. We might have to come back and add things later, but that's a bridge we can cross when we get there. So which story was this that's erroring? Edit consumption. Interesting. What's going on here? So we tried to get consumption and that failed. Like we should be intercepting that request. Oh, I think it worked now. Okay, great. Will it consistently work? I don't know, but all right. So that should address the two things that were failing. So let's go ahead and get that committed. So fix issues with missing Redux provider. we should see our build process kick off here, and hopefully everything will be good and this will auto merge. Then we can finally move on to things besides this Redux conversion. And so the first thing I have in my up next list is this bug where it's saying the entry was 325 calories when it should have been like 32 calories? Something like that? Is that right? What's the nutrition label say? So it's 40 grams is supposed to be 130 calories, so a fourth of that would be yeah, about 32. So where is that number coming from? We'll have to find that in the UI here in a minute. Let's find that right now. So let's see if I go back. Let's find a day where we had something. Well, actually, maybe if I look at the bug. This was on the 7th. This is why I took the screenshot. So I could find it again. Of course, I changed it after, naturally. So let's click it. Yeah. And then we'll change this to 10. So 32. I'm not sure about the rounding. But if we click that, and then apparently I have to hit cancel there. So that updated, but the number of calories didn't update. So where is this number coming from is a question, right? So we'll just... I'll switch back to main at some point and all that, but we're not even changing code yet. I'm just going to try to figure out what's going on, try to understand what the story is with this bug. So components, let's see, how far do I need to go down the tree? Diary meal entry is pretty close. Right, so here we have the table row with our buttons and our label, and then we have, if it's not a quick add, then we show servings and the number of servings, and then the serving size, and then we show calories, entry calories. So where's that data coming from? Probably easiest to see that in the UI. Like if we refresh this page, we can see. Let's see, just a XHR. So here's the TRBC request that's batched up. That's requesting all the data for this page. So we can see in the response a bunch of objects, and one of these is the data that's being shown in this table. So we'll find that. So that's user settings. This one is meals with entries. Okay, here we go. So here's what the backend is returning to us. It's saying meal, so entry, consumption, in other words, 64. Servings 10, serving size 1, calories 325. So, if I go to consumption and I look for, what was the number? 64? Here's 64. And I suppose there's a way I can just like view this record by itself. Okay, well, it's highlighted. So, container size 1, that represents like 1 gram of the thing. Servings 10, so it's 10 grams. And then we don't have kilocalories here. We don't have any of this information because we only add this for quick added items. So that means the backend must be doing that for us, right? So if we go back to the UI, what is this operation? One, two, the third operation there is list consumptions by meal. So if we look at that procedure, list consumptions by meal, there it is. What is this doing? We're checking to see if you're authorized to view that record, and then we're figuring out. Okay, so because of course we want to, if we're asking for the list of consumptions for grouped by meal, which is what we're doing here, we're interested in just consumptions on a given day to get like what are the things that were consumed on this this day, and then group by meal. So we find meals, and then we also include the linked foods, and then we are mapping over this data that we're getting from the database, and then we are figuring out, okay, so if there's no entry.food, wait, so entries, food, right, so let's look at the database again, Prisma Studio, right, so this is linked to a food, which is going to tell us the stats on that food item, right, so food ID 1 is linked to this food item here, which is our organic ginger cube. And we have all sorts of stats. So this is where that 325 calories is coming from, and the carbs and the other macro, and then other information as well. So there we go. So that's where that information is coming from. But I think right now we are okay. So we're always returning. So the nutrition information in the food record is per 100 grams is, I believe, what it's supposed to represent, or 100 milliliters. That is the. Is that true? So this is interesting, right? So this is 300 calories, but the serving size is 5 grams. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Here's something I know exactly what this is. Not sponsored, but nutrition information. Net carbs per serving, but what about calories? There we go. So, like a serving size of 36 grams is 140 calories. But we can see in the data that we are storing in the database that we're storing 472 calories, because this is per 100 grams, so like 3 times the serving size. And I believe, so that aligns with what I recall from the kind of the design decision on what data we're storing here. In fact, if we dug through the is it external APIs where we're pulling things from Open Food Facts, Yeah, so all the data that we're getting back from here is in units based on 100 grams, um, which mostly seems to work. I think there are maybe some edge cases where, well, one, there's just no data, or two, maybe there's some places where this is not correct. But so far, it seemed okay. Um, so, getting distracted by looking at this to do, but we're not dealing with that right now because this is about quick add, and that's not what we're dealing with. So I think, there are a couple things we could do here, right? So one, we could have the front end know that the item, the values it's getting back are per 100 grams, and then so what it would need to do here is say, okay, well, this is per 100 grams. This is actually only 10 grams, and then do the math, right? To convert this, so this is like 1 gram, so this should be 1/100th of this value times the 10 number of servings for 1 gram servings. Just read the air quotes in around servings there. But, the unit of measure we're using for quantities here. So this would be 32.5 kilocalories. Or, so that would be option one. Or two, we could do the math on the back end, endless consumptions by meal, to say, okay, well, we know that this is supposed to represent kilocalories per 100 grams. So we could divide this by 100 times the, servings and serving size, because serving size should be, so it should be this times this divided by 100, right? And that should always work. And that seems easy enough. We have to do the same thing for protein and carbs and fat as well. That same math. But it is the same math, right? So just divide these all by 100.0 and multiply it by servings times serving size, which we could call amounts. I'm liking that as a solution. That feels like, I think this is the, let's see, look, there's also get consumption. But get consumption doesn't return any information about the actual item. It doesn't return like macros or anything like that. So, a side note, it's really nice. I mean, besides obviously we're defining what the shape of the output is here. So either this, or we're having something where we're explicitly constructing an object to return, is really nice, because otherwise, I have in the past worked on code bases where one might take the result of fetching maybe just everything, the whole record from the database, whatever it is, and the backend endpoint. I wasn't using TRBC back then, but the backend endpoint would just return the whole object, and that causes all sorts of problems of what is the intent, right? What do we actually want the front end to be able to see or not see? What did the person who wrote that backend code want the front end to see? What does the front end actually need to see? And being explicit about it. And we're kind of being explicit about it in 3 places here, right? Because we're explicitly saying what is the shape of the output through this output validator using Zod. And then we're also explicitly saying what we want to fetch from the DB. So no select star here. And then we're explicitly constructing what the object is that we want to return. Some of that's because we have some logic embedded in this as well. But you could imagine, you mapping the database result if there was like records, or doing some manipulation and then just returning whatever that was. So So that's kind of redundancy I don't mind, at least at this scale. Once we start getting into like, oh, we're gonna have the same set of operations for multiple objects, then we can think of ways to abstract out some kind of reusable thing to build this, but we're not there, and I don't think for this app we will get there. That being said, yeah, so I think I know what I want to do here, which is to calculate not the amount or the serving size, but the amount of the item in grams to adjust the macros and calories based on the amount. Thinking about the nomenclature there, I'm not a nutrition expert. I suppose I should have made that disclaimer before. I write code, and I use an app like this on a daily basis, and that is the expertise or lack of expertise that I bring to this. But that being said, I was just thinking that when I say macros, I think what I mean are like protein and carbs and fat, and then calories are calories, a measurement of energy. And so I don't think calories count as a macronutrient, which is what macros is short for, I think. But anyway, how is the build going? We're waiting. Let me refresh. Okay. So it looks like the stories were published and UI tests are pending. 48 changes must be accepted as baselines. That is maybe... I don't know if that's good. Let's take a look at what we have going on here. Oh, right. So we have a news story. Right. So this is our consumption empty data. Right. So we added this. This is fine. Logged food actions. So this is new. Logged food actions. Is that? I don't know why I was tapping there because that's not going to give me anything. Logged food actions. Basic. Oh, I see. So interesting. Logged food actions basic. Why does nothing? I guess it can't capture the modal in this. I guess that's fine for now. All right, so diary basic is also new. Is that diary basic? Or is it this diary? There it is. Okay. So that seems fine. Barcode scanner main. It's just complaining because where the mocking information landed is slightly different. But it looks like we're still getting a black box there because I don't think this browser in Chromatic has a webcam attached. So that's fine. And this is something I need to figure out how to do something about. So we have this thing we have a decorator for Storybook that attaches this little thing that says mocking date, blah, 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 blah. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but it is generating these like, oh, something changed in the UI things. So I'll see if I want to keep that long term. Where's that exactly? That's in Storybook Preview. Right here. So this is something I added to... I got this mock date package, and I have this set up so that we have this fixed mock date set, and I think the stories could override that if they wanted to. Um, but essentially, that allows us to say, if not parameters return. Okay, so we didn't have parameters, but if we did have parameters, we can set the mock date from that parameter, and we can add this little div showing this date that we're essentially forcing all of the code that's being run inside of Storybook to believe it's whatever the parameterized date is, which is in 2019. And we needed that specifically because we had stories where, um, we're looking at the diary, and the navigation on the diary depends on what it thinks the current date is. And we wanted to be able to test what the behavior of the UI was based on the current, or the quote unquote current date. And so being able to mock that was important for that. So anyway, nothing is changing here other than this is slightly moved. The font changed or something to do with the mocking date, and I don't care about that. In fact, yeah, this is interesting. Why does it think? Did the is this like the margin on something changed? Is that what's going on? Okay. Well, I don't really care about that. That all looks good. Yeah, so we got a little something with the text changed here, but yeah, it looks like maybe some margin change, which is fine. It doesn't bother me. Okay, how many of these do we have to go? All right, all right. Yeah, basically the same. Okay. Yep, same thing. Quite a bit of movement of the buttons here and the icons. I wonder what changed that. What caused that to change? I don't know, but it's fine. I'm not interesting. Did this shrink in the loading? Okay, well, fortunately, this is not something where I'm trying to like pixel perfect match some design or anything like that. Uh, I've been in those situations years ago, but this is fine, and not even in a mimetic sort of way. Yeah, and these don't matter. And yeah, text alignment something. Yeah, that all looks fine. Still have a number of placeholder stories where it's just like, there should be a component here, like this. They'll have to come back to. Lots of green here, but I think this is all, again, the same sort of situation as the others. All right, so that, yep, and it auto merged. We are done with this pull request, which is good. I do have some pull requests that were opened by Dependabot to do some upgrades, so we'll have to do that at some point. But not right now, I think. I don't think there's a super rush. We'll pull down those 11 commits. I guess they didn't have it do a squash. Oh well, whatever. Have we been doing squash commits in this repo? Or just normal merges? The 163 commits suggest we've not been doing squashes. Let's go older. I don't know anymore. If I had a methodology for that, I've lost it. Okay, so that all out of the way, we can work on something new. So let's see. I want to convert this to an issue. There we go. And so now I should be able to go over here and look at issues and refresh. Create it. There we go. So we're gonna start working on that issue, which handily fills out like a little commit message there and tags the issue number, and so that'll link the commit we're gonna do, and also created a branch for me. Named after the issue, and because the issue is linked to the item in the backlog and in the project, once we open the PR, this item will move to in progress and then to done once the PR is merged. So it all is just like integrated. So to do that thing. I think this should be really easy, right? So we're just going to say cost amount equals something like that. I think what I want to do here is I want to actually pull this out first. Serving size equals that logic. And then that way that can be just like that. And then amount is servings times serving size. Yeah. So what is the complaint here about? It's possibly null. Okay. So if it's null, obviously we can't do that. And in fact, we should just pass through null. I'm just going to make a little helper function here. Convert value. Convert is no. Scale. Yeah, something like that. But nutrient's the wrong word. Scale. 100 G value. Except value can potentially be null. Yep, and we'll just pass null through. And yeah. All right. What is the problem? All right, we need to pass the amount here. Cool. And then we just repeat the same process because all of these things are values and based on a 100-gram amount. So we should just be able to do the same thing. I feel like I've done this logic somewhere else. Let's see if I can find that. Okay. So some percentage things over in the body composition thing, but it's not applicable here. And then in search result list, yeah, this should look familiar. United value, food, kilocalories divided by 100 times food.serving size. Right. Yeah, so in our search results, we want to show like how many calories it is per serving, and then show the serving information. Do I want to take this and put this somewhere common to use in both places? I feel inclined to do that because ultimately the fact that these values are in units of some units of units of one per 100 grams um, is something that is common for both of these things. Where is this data coming from? Like, so in the past, in a past version of this code, we were calling the API and passing the API data directly to the front end, and so that was replaced with having it go into the DB and then pulling, taking the data that we put in the DB and also returning it to the client. So now, what should always be the case that the data that we're getting is kind of aligned to the same thing. I think it would be good, at least for now. The assumption is that, so based on what I just said, the assumption is that if something were to change in how we were processing the data, it would affect this and this. So we should probably have the function be used by both, so it'll be findable. So we'll know that if we need to change that function or stop using that function, we can see all the places where it's being used. So I think I'll make a, what did I call the function? Scale 100G value. So I'll make a util file, and we will export that function from there. Export default. It's a lot of thinking for a very simple function. But I think that it's kind of the right call to make. Kind of in a more abstract sense. So then, like, this is scale 100G value, and then it's just this, and this is the amount, and that goes away. And this is number or null. Maybe. It would be interesting to say that the type of this returns a number if this is a number, and returns null if this is null. How would I type that? I guess I would want t extends number or null, right? And then I would say this is of type t, and whatever type that is, it also returns type t. Null is assignable to a constraint of type t, but t could be instantiated with a different subtype of constraint. Okay, so that doesn't work. Oh, I don't need the type parameter at all. I can do something different. So we can say type no. Number or null. No, because that doesn't, I guess even what I just tried to do is not going to work, because it still is, it's going to say it can be one or the other, but it could still be one or the other, right? So how would I type it so that I could say, if you pass in a number, you will get back a number, and if you pass in null, you will get back null. Can't you Can you provide multiple type signatures? I've searched this before. Yeah, you do that. So let's say I did this. So if you pass in null, you get back null. Is that right? Semicolon. Okay. Yeah. So we know kilocalories. I guess we don't. If you pass in a number, you get a number. Interesting. So did that break code over here? Value null, amount number null. Give the number or null is not assignable to type null. Number is not assignable to type null. Overload gave the following. Okay, so can we get rid of this? Nope. I don't suppose we could just like do that. Nope. We can only have one implementation. Okay. Yeah. Hey, this looks familiar. DB user null. Conditional types. Oh. Type thing. Type. Okay. T extends thing or null. If T extends that, then that. Otherwise null. Now, is any of this necessary? No. This is more of me wondering how I would type this rather than really needing to do this. It would just be cool sometime, you know, because we know, within the scope of this function, we know when it's going to be null or not. And it would be sometimes useful to be able to express that information so that whoever is using the function would be like, oh, my value is never going to be null, so therefore the value I get back will never be null. That's not really applicable here, apparently, because kilocalories can be, it's optional. So I guess it could be undefined. But it can't be. Because we have a guard here. So kilocalories has to be present. Although this is weird. If kilocalories was 0, I guess we wouldn't show this either. That might be a bug, depending on your point of view. But it's not the bug that we're dealing with right now. So this should at least... did I do something bad? Export default function. Did we import that function? Oh, there's a bunch of imports we don't need anymore. Let's get rid of those. I do like removing code that's not used anymore. It's complaining. Oh, hold on. I did want that ESLint disable. There you go. Okay, this is what we added. And we're importing that from utils. Good, good, good. So why is Storybook complaining? Could not parse import exports with acorn, syntax error, unexpected token. Export default function. Seems fine. I think that might just be a thing where we need to restart Storybook. But regardless, let's go over here. And we don't want to refresh. Okay. Be that way. Let's close that tab and get a new tab open. 32.5 kilocalories. So there we go. We're displaying the right information now. So here goes, 100 grams, 325 kilocalories. And I'll probably jump back and forth saying kcals, kilocalories or calories. Why am I saying kilocalories in the UI? Because I can. It's my app. It is the more technically correct. Since when you see calories on a label, like on a food item, it's talking about kilocalories. Actually. So anyway, this is a hilarious breakfast of 1,200 kilocalories of sugar. All right. So I think we fixed this bug. Right, so yeah. Let's commit this. Publish branch. I used to have a thing here. I guess here. There we go. Wait, what changed in here? Oh, right. So, yep. Makes sense. Auto merge? Oh, I see. Okay, so what I did on this repo is I have it set to rebase and merge as the only merge option. So that's what we've been doing, answering my question from before. So we're merging into main. And create that. Get these tabs all closed up. And okay, cool. And so we're done with that. Switch back to main. And at some point, we should auto merge that pull request. Once all this stuff happens. Hopefully, we won't have any more UI things. If we do, that may push me to reconsidering the whole mock date UI display thing again. But we'll see what happens. Storybook's still broken? Okay, let me restart it. Maybe I should make a command. Okay. So that should have... Aw, that should have moved that to in progress. Why didn't that move that to in progress? So we tagged the issue. And the issue was tied to the item in the project. Hold on, let me see here. Where do I see workflows? When an item is added to the project, when an item is closed, when pull request is merged, we said it's done. When code changes for requested. When approved, didn't I have a thing to make it so that... No, no, no. I thought I had something that would automatically move the items to in progress when the issue went to, when like a PR was opened on an issue. But I guess that's not a thing. Okay. When an item is reopened. What about when an item is opened? Ooh, auto archive items. Interesting. Would we want to do that? Interesting. Pull request merged. Code review. See, I don't want that. Can I edit this but then change what? Nope. Okay. Interesting. So this is on. So when an issue or pull request is added to the project, set the value to icebox. No, this doesn't really do what I want. That's too bad. Okay, well, anyway. That would have... I just spent, like, I don't know, a minute or two looking at that. You know, to solve something that took me, 5 seconds to drag the box into the other column. But whatever. I like my automation. Speaking of automation, how is that going? One change must be accepted into the baseline. Okay. What is the change? So this changed... Oh, this again. Yeah, I don't know. So there's an animation on the button, and I think it must be grabbing the information, like the screenshot, the capture, at different points in the animation, because I've seen this multiple times where it's this kind of change. So it would be nice if when there is no substantive change there that we wouldn't get those requests to review, but what are you gonna do? So this is the stuff I was talking about before that I need to upgrade, but I'll do that later. There we go. So that did move to done. So I'm feeling pretty good about these arbitrary numbers for progress on the app. We have 81 done items, 18 that are kind of the things that I want to do before we can get this thing on the internet, and then 48 items that are things that I would like to eventually add to this. Try out discriminated union props for component with different data statuses. I think this might not be... Yeah, there's no detail here. Component with different data statuses. So I think the idea was this is something to do with like having... You have a non-connected component where you're passing in like, oh, this is with the data's not loaded yet. It's in the process of loading. And having props, having a props type where you have like, oh, this is the loading state, this is a non-loading state. I think I just don't want to do this. Instead, have separate components for doing loading or not loading. So I'm gonna archive this, I guess. Okay. At some point, I should like review, like go back through all these again. I don't know if that's something that would be interesting to do on stream. But for now, we got a lot of stuff to work through. I don't know if I want to make this a product design stream versus a coding stream. All right, so the next thing to do is something else that last stream came up, which is right now you cannot say add 1.5 servings of something to your diary. You can only do 1 or 2 or 3, integer amounts, whole number amounts. Um, could you add negative ones? Actually, that's a good question. Can you add negative servings of an item? I want to know this. So you can't enter a minus sign here. Aha! There we go. Let's not think too much about how this, what this might actually represent. There we go. We do have validation on the back end. And it was pretty tricky to get the UI to allow us to enter a negative, so I think I'm fine with that. But yeah, so we have validation that says the number must be greater than 0. Can we trick it into allowing us to enter a decimal amount? Unexpected error. Okay, so I think that's where we're trying to then save. And Prisma is saying, no, you can't save a decimal amount to the database because the model says that that's integer. I don't know if we're going to see that in the response here. Oh, maybe if I expand this out. Nope. Maybe in the console, we'll see what the error is, and we'll see that it's the thing that I just said. Also sync changes since our PR got merged. So yeah, so we can see that it says, so Prisma's validation logic, Prisma client validation error is saying that servings of 0.5 is an invalid value, provided a float expected int or an int field update operations input, right? Because of, which is interesting. So I guess in the request to update, you could tell it to like increment and decrement or multiply or divide some integer field. Anyway, so let's do some Prisma stuff. So really what we need to do here is we need to change our model of the database and then create a migration. And this should be a pretty painless one to do because we are migrating an existing column to a different type, but a type that can represent all the same data that's in the existing column. So this is not something where we're changing a nullable column to be not nullable, or changing an integer to a string might be problematic maybe, or something like that. I just got to remember, oh yeah, Prisma. Schema.prisma is the file. And so we have a consumption model. So I think before we dive into this, I think the other thing that we probably need to do is figure out how to make the servings UI also more than tolerate, embrace allowing the user to enter a decimal amount. Because it's pretty tricky to do right now, because if I delete this, you get 0. You can't enter a decimal here. You can enter 0.5 and then put a decimal in, but that is pretty unintuitive workaround to that. So we'll have to look at that. The up and down things work. We should, whatever. I'll ignore the fact that you can just keep on going for now, unless it's easy to fix when we start working on the UI stuff. But first, so servings here is the thing we're changing, and if we just change this to a float, interesting. I don't want that. Okay, so what would this do? Prisma. Let me just find the docs. Prisma schema, data sources, data model, types, scholar, fields. Here we go. Complete list. And we can look at float. So there's also decimal. So the question is, which do we want to use? Float maps to double in 2.17 and later. Changes the default mapping of float. So in SQLite, which is what we're using right now, this type becomes a real. Postgres, which will probably eventually switch to if and when, probably not if, but when this gets deployed on the internet, we'll probably have this using Postgres. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. You can provide native things for this. SQLite, just this real. So what about, wait, that's float. What about decimal? So decimal, there is a decimal type in SQLite, and it's also decimal in Postgres with some default precision values. What version of Prisma are we on? Is a question as we're looking at these docs. Prisma, is that in our dev dependencies? 4.11. Okay. So this warning that this change was a long time ago. Okay. So decimal versus float. Floats have problems in terms of how they represent values, and especially for something where the user is going to enter something and then expect to see it back again, and the fact that we're going to do math on it. Why would we use a float instead of a decimal? I think we'll just use a decimal. Now, granted, I am using float in these other places for these values, and maybe that is something that I will change my mind about. But thinking right now, just for this, decimal seems like a good choice. Do I want to change serving size on the food as well? So serving size here represents the number of grams or milliliters. The lack of enums for SQLite is annoying, and is why we're in the situation where serving unit is a string. But serving size, should that be not an integer? I don't know, but let's if we're doing one, let's do that, and then container sizes and food.serving unit units. Maybe this should be a decimal too. I don't think any of this is going to change any of the logic. I mean, we're just mathing things. I guess, well, we'll see how how things shake out. Let's try. Let's see. Run task. Prisma generate. So this will generate the client bindings. And now we have some TypeScript errors. Good. That is kind of what I was thinking here, right? This is going to add some... Using the decimal is going to cause some problems for us in terms of existing code. So this is a number. And servings here is... What is the problem? Okay, I think... There we go. So now this is a decimal type. And so left-hand side of arithmetic operation must be of type any number big int or an enum type. And so this is neither of those things. So I think we would have to do something where we like multiply. I don't know if we're going to do this, but this is fine. So then we get a decimal back. And now this breaks because this is of type decimal, not number. So what if this was a decimal? I guess we could change this around as well. The b amount dot mul. And of course this would be a decimal or null. And so this starts propagating. I guess the question is, so now calories is decimal or null. Does that... yeah, that's not valid. Because we say we're going to return a meal array, and somewhere under the hood, this is going to be a number. And decimal isn't a number as far as our current type setup is concerned. Somewhere inside of this error is a thing telling us exactly that. It's not assignable to type, to parameter of type, blah, 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 because type, serving size, calories number, calories number, calories number. Yeah, servings decimal. Somewhere in here. Yeah, here we go. So at the very end. Types of property servings are incompatible. Type decimal is not assignable to type number. So I think that's why we used float in those other places, was to avoid having to deal with this, right? Because then we don't have to use an object to represent the value, and instead we can just use the primitive type. And rather than dealing with this now, oops, that's too far backwards. Can we... one more? There we go. Okay. So instead of doing that, we're gonna... yeah, see, I'm using decimal here. And presumably the way we're handling that is in our procedure for get user settings. We are, yeah, we're just converting all this to number. I'm not going to deal with this now. But I'm glad I spotted this because I was about to do a find replace. But we don't want to change these. We've already done the work of dealing with the fact these are decimals here. But for those things that I just changed, we're just going to go with floats. We have floats other places, like here, so it's fine for now. Let's search for decimal. Decimal. Yeah, it was also a container size. And then the rest of the things are over here in the user settings. Okay, so then we'll run Prisma generate again to regenerate the client bindings. And so that should make all the TypeScript errors go away. Most of the TypeScript errors go away. Right, I need to revert this change as well. Okay, so TSC watch isn't finding anything, and I think this is just stale info. So if I reopen that, what is this complaining about? Oh, right, so it's still old. What I need to do is I need to go to like find many, something that's inside the client bindings, and hit F12 to go to the code, and that'll force VS Code to refresh its knowledge of the types in question. And so that fixes that. And then the other thing we need to do, of course, then we need to actually do the migration. So we have a task here, migrate dev, which runs Prisma generate and then runs Prisma migrate dev. All right, so warnings for the current data source. You're about to alter the column serving size on the food table, which contains 119 non-null values. The data in that column will be cast from int to float. And then the same thing for the other two, right? So are you sure you want to create and apply this migration? So this is saying those columns can be null. Maybe some of the values are null, but for the things that aren't null, it's going to convert, it's going to cast the values from int to float. I think that should be fine. In a more serious setting, you might want to like make a DB backup, and then you know one, you shouldn't be doing this in prod, but this should be in your dev environment. But make a copy of your DB, do the migration, and then compare the values between them. We're not going to bother with any of that. So convert servings to float, which converts our spaces to underscores, which is good. And the database is now in sync. So now, if we try to save our 5.5 servings, our 5.5 grams of organic ginger cubes, an error occurred. Probably we needed to restart the dev server. Yeah. It's not knowing about this change. There we go. So we'll run dev server. And so this just runs npm run dev. And then if we click done now, I think the dev server is still starting up. But this should work. There we go. It did a thing. And then we'll hit cancel here. And I'm going to refresh. Let's see what else we broke. Hello? Oh, tab's broken. 5.5 grams of organic ginger cubes. Excellent. Okay. Yeah, just their same. Class name did not match. That's fine. Okay. So if I click into this, and this has the information, it's showing that there. 4 grams of carbs, 18 kilocalories for our 5.5 grams. Yeah, so that all looks fine. Details. So we can see here this is rounding, so it's actually 17.9 according to this. 4.4 carbs, 4.1 sugar. Yep, cool. So the other thing we should do to kind of wrap up this item is to make it so it's actually practical to enter a decimal value into the servings. And probably, so I think this UI element is our united component. So if we go to the components thing here, we should see, maybe not. Input, MUI input root. I thought maybe this would be, okay, form control. Card content? No. Interesting. Okay, well let's find this. So this is edit entry. This is inside of consumption. Okay. Let's hide some things here. I'm done with this backend stuff for the moment. I skipped a step when I started working on this though. Let's convert this to an issue. And we will get a branch going for this issue. And before we move on, you can see here that Prisma has created a migration for us. And it's kind of interesting looking at what it's doing here, right? So um, it's creating a new table for the table that's migrating, and then it's doing an insert into select from to migrate the data, and then it's dropping the original table and renaming the migrated table. Um, just pretty interesting. Typically, uh, if I were to go and add, like, change the type on a column, I would think you could just, alter table. Um, but I think there are good reasons for doing this. I just don't know necessarily what they are and their applicability to SQLite off the top of my head. But then it's interesting, so it's recreating the unique index on the table. And then it's doing the same process for food and consumption. I also would not use any capital letters in my column names if I were doing this, or in my table names rather. At least on Postgres, I found that can cause some problems where then I suddenly have to start quoting every table and column name in order for it to find the right thing. Anyway, that's not a problem we have yet. if and when we switch to Postgres, maybe we can force Prisma to use all lowercase. Okay, so anyway, we were trying to figure out what we need to change in the UI. So something about consumption. And I suspect are there other places where we're entering the serving amount to edit it? Right, so if we add an item here, if I could type, there we go, and I click add. And this is the same UI. Like, this is still the consumption component, I believe. I could be mistaken. Let's look here. Yeah, connected. Yeah, good. So fixing it one place fixes it in both of those. Quick add. We don't have servings. Like, we're not doing anything with servings there. We're just, you enter whatever. And I think that's it. So I think it's just this component. And obviously the logic allows you to enter a numeric value, a decimal value. It just works really hard to make it hard to do. And I think I see the reason for that, which is that we are, when you change, so we're just using input, right? Because, yeah, why would it be units in input? There's no units here. This is a unitless value anyway. We are taking the target value, converting it to a number, and using, so we have some internal state, I guess, in this component. Yeah, so we have useState here, and we are saving that. So the first thing that I'm thinking about here is maybe we can save kind of a non-validated value that the user enters. And then if at any given point when the user is changing the value, or maybe on blur, if the unvalidated value is a valid value, then we use set updated set servings to set that. And then we probably also want to have some state to indicate that this is whether or not it's valid or not. So probably error for that. I mean, I think that's fine. Um, but yeah, so what we want to do here, let's add some more state. Uh, raw servings. Set raw servings. Should this ever be null? No, I think this should start as an empty string, and this should be a string. And then what we can do is we're going to make this logic a little more complicated. We're going to say we're always going to set raw servings to be that, and then what we're going to do is if it's sure we could do that. I don't know if we're going to do that though. Let's see what else Copilot suggests for us. Else. We could do that, but I think what we want to do is want to say const, yeah, if value not equal to nan value I did. Okay. So, and I think this is the case that if we pass in a value and it's not parsable as a number, let's see how that behaves. Well, this is running in the browser. Let's do this inside the console here. So if we say number and an empty string, that returns 0. If we did, yeah, so that's nan. That's fine. That's parsable. Hi. Okay, we can't trick it. Okay, that is kind of what I was expecting in terms of behavior, so that's good. And then, so what we want to say is, and actually, if it is not a number, then we want to also do that, right? Because that'll trigger indicated error. Yes. Wait, what is this? The prop defaults to the value false inherited from the parent form control component. I guess we could put this on the form control. So what does that look like, right? So if we go back to the 7th, was that the day we were interacting with? Okay, and then click it. Here we go. And if we change this, oh right. So the value should be raw servings. There we go. So now you can see a blank value here. Interesting. Shouldn't that indicate there's some kind of error, though? Yeah, going to the demos. Let's do that. And we're about halfway through today's stream, so it's about time for a break. I'm going to let's figure this out first in terms of this error prop. Yeah, the error prop toggles the error state. And it should be on. Wait. This is text field. What about form control? we... there we go. Component API, form control. Props, error. If true, the label is displayed in the error state. Okay, what if we did this? So if servings is null, or servings is less than or equal to 0, there should be an error. So why is that not red? Components. Email input root input. Error false. Servings null. Oh. Right. So, I guess it should be updated servings. Wait. Oh, this gets more complicated. Right, so this error should be more about... yeah, if the user has entered raw servings and updated servings is null, that's the problem. Right, because that means... because we have a couple of things here. We have updated servings, and we have the existing servings value. So if we enter something here... that should be an error. So that part works. Like if we enter a value. But this should be an error, right? Because we have insert a value into raw servings. So it's not equal to an empty string. But updated servings is null. Which it should be. Because target value past the number. This should be not a number, so we should be setting this to null. So why is updated servings not null? Please enter a number. But why shouldn't this be red? And, it's an ARIA invalid false as well, right? So that should definitely, error should be true here. Maybe I do need to have error on the form control? Does that change anything? So if I look at the form control, error false. Why? Set raw servings. Yeah, I don't know. But the other thing we can do here is we can do on blur. Right. So for on blur, we want to make sure that what behavior do we want right here? So I think what I was thinking, what was I thinking? I don't know that I need this actually, now that I'm thinking about it, right? So we're going to, whatever the user enters here, we're going to immediately set if it's valid. I guess the only thing we could do would be on blur if the user had entered something and it wasn't a valid number, we could like clear it. But I don't think we need that logic. I don't think we need that behavior, rather. So let's leave that. I don't know why it's saying that there's no error. You know what we could do here is we can just add some console logs. Okay, I don't know why is hitting escape triggering that. I'm gonna have to look at my extensions here in a little bit. So what do I want to log? So the thing that should be driving the error is the value of raw servings and the value of updated servings, right? So this thinks that raw servings is an empty string, which shouldn't be the case, right? So on change, on the input, we should set raw servings to this value. Oh. Right. It's because the type was number. So it was already deciding what was and wasn't a number. Let's check something real quick. HTML5 number input. I don't think there's a way to tell it to accept a decimal value. I feel like I've done that before. Incremental numbers. Not appropriate value that only consists of numbers, but aren't strictly speaking a number. Yep, it's true. Value, placeholder, step size. Like, yeah, allowing decimal values. I wonder if that would be okay. I don't think we need to get down to, I think tenths is fine. Interesting. Step does not exist on type. Input props. Oh, right. So what we need to do is we need to say like text props or some kind of props. Input props. There we go. And maybe all the stuff that I just did is not necessary. 0.5. Hey, 0.5, 0.1. Yeah, that's all fine. What if I just undid everything else? What if? I just reverted all those changes. Set updated servings. And we just ditch all the rest of this. We'll have some unused stuff there. But let's refresh this. Okay, that doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing here. So I can type point. Oh. But it doesn't display it. Oh, right, because... Why doesn't it display it? Is it because I told it not to display that value? Alright. Nope, I still can't enter a decimal value unless I, arrow key around. I can still, like, do this up and down arrow a decimal value. Like if we could start from 0, I can do that, but it's still not what I want, right? I still want to be able to enter 0.5. but that doesn't work. So if I go back to the way I had it here, but leave our step size here, can I get both behaviors working together? 0.2, 5, 0.9, 9.9, point. So, right. This is why I can't use the number type for the input, because basically that is going to not call on change if it's not a number, and so then I can't do any of my handling here. So we're just going to get rid of that. 0.5. Hey, look, the error thing works too, right? So we should probably disable done if there's an error. But 0.5 works. 100, 0.9, 9.9. We can't up and down arrow, but who does that anyway? 0. I think our SVG is confused about how to handle that, but that's fine. That's an unrelated issue. Get rid of our console log here. And 100, 1000. That's a lot of ginger cubes. What if we switch to the 100 gram servings size? And we'll just say 1. That seems fine. 1.1. 1.25. Okay. This seems reasonable. So let's commit this. Did I not hit commit? I felt like it hit commit, but I guess not. Get that pull request going, and then yeah, it's time for a break, and I'll be back in a few minutes, and we will resume working through the backlog, I suppose. Next up is making toast eventually go away and be dismissible, which was another thing that we talked about in the last stream. Let me get this pull request open before I go away. Auto merge, create. There we go, and check out main. All right, be back in a few. All right, back to things. Somewhere is a tab, and that tab has, there we go. I was actually looking to see if there's a way to make it so that Windows would just like show me the tabs on one screen. Or the windows to tab through, because that would be nice for streaming, but that doesn't seem to be a thing that can be done. Alright, how's the pull request? Still processing. It's checking our 48 stories. Alright. The backlog then. So, next item is to make toast eventually go away and be dismissible. And so these are the little notification things. Do I still have some? Nope. I refreshed at some point. But basically they're the little notifications like when there's an error or something happens. In Material UI they're also called snack bars. And I would like them to just like go away after a period of time. So let's figure out how to do that. Let's see. If I search for snack bar, I think it's just this one component right now that, yep, is using that snack bar thing. So like if we're loading or if there's an error, we'll show these snack bars. And so how are we going to do this? So we have a request slice. And back to Redux stuff. Now that we're there, we're going to be dealing with it. So we have a request slice. Requests slice, there we go. Where we have that state. And then what we want to be able to do is a couple things. We want the snack bar for errors to be dismissible. And, you know, maybe actually looking at this, maybe we want to have a separate snack bar item per error. But yeah, we want these errors to be to one be you know, have like a thing to interact with them, which maybe there's a prop for doing that. Click away listener props, a bunch of ARIA stuff. Maybe I should just look at the MUI documentation on the component, but I'm already here, so results, prefix rating. Okay, we'll have to look at the MUI documentation on that. But and then the other thing I want is that these snack bars will go away after some time on their own. And to facilitate that, how would we do that? We could, so we right now the request state has a count a pending request, which is how we're keeping track of are we still loading things. I don't think I want to change any of that behavior. Like this is going to be fine. The is loading stuff is fine. It's really just the errors that I want to deal with here. And so we're pushing a thing onto errors, and it's this object that has a message. And a thing we could have on here, I mean, I think just getting rid of the error is pretty straightforward. What we would probably want to do is give each error an ID. We'll just like randomly generate an ID for it. Or I guess we could have a counter. Think about that for a minute. That'd be a lot simpler. And I don't think there's really a downside. This is not going to be like persistent state. You know, whenever you load the app, we don't need to like worry about collisions of IDs of those things. So we could just give it a number, right? So that we would then be able to have an action that would remove that error from state.errors, right? And then what? And then we would be able to have, you know, something on the snack bar to be able to dismiss it. I think I'll tackle that first, being able to dismiss the errors. So there's a couple of pieces to that. One piece is going to be, I think I want to have a separate snack bar component for each error, rather than embedding the list of errors inside of the snack bar. That way you can dismiss some. Does that matter? Putting on my what would a user actually want at perspective thing? Yeah. Maybe instead, what we should do is we should just have an action that clears errors, Copilot's already there. And so let's go find the movie docs. I guess pretty close. So snack bar. Snack bar. Ooh, there's also a snack bar component. I should look at the demo. Right, because we're using snack bar and we're using message, but it looks like there's also a snack bar content. So we're doing this, then on click, on close, handle close. So there's auto hydration. Ta-da! Suddenly this got a lot easier by just, reading the docs. Who'd have thunk it? So handle close. We want to dispatch. Clear errors. Let's say const dispatch equals use dispatch. Yep. And then clear errors. Like that should just be able to clear errors, right? Import. Like we're oh, I'm probably missing the thing that I'm supposed to do to be able to export. Oh, right. Here we go. Like this. This is the bit the other things have. So we want to, for our slice, we want to export clear errors. There we go. Expected 0 arguments, but got 1. What do you mean? State scan barcode. Okay. Yeah, like that. What's the problem here? Dispatch. Use dispatch. Dispatch. Oh. I didn't call it. That would be a problem. Alright. Okay. So I think this says this what, like 6 seconds auto hides? How can we how can we make this error? Well, we kind of gave up an opportunity to do that before because we could previously pass in a decimal value here, and it would throw an error. What can we still do that will cause this to break? Aha. I'm not sure if that should break, but so should this go away after? It auto goes away after 6 seconds. That's great. So I don't know why that errored. I guess Maybe those columns are also integer. But here's a question. So can we, yeah, we can click away too. There's not an X, but you can definitely click the background and it will auto go away. So that's good. And we wouldn't want that behavior for the loading snack bar. So that was a lot easier than I was thinking it was going to be. I was thinking we were going to have to like implement something to keep track of like, how long the things have been loaded and, you know, some background, timeout or something. But I guess not. All right, and this is an issue, so I should just be able to find our issue in the list. Oh, it's right there. Make toast eventually go away and be dismissible. We did it. And how is our other pull request doing? Did it auto merge? 3 changes must be accepted as baselines. Let's see what that's about. Oh. Why is that blank? So in edit consumption, I think this is a bug. So edit consumption, is it this page? No, it must be lower. Or, oh yeah, that happened before. Let's refresh. There we go. So it's 1 there. Interactions? No, there's no interactions there. So why was that blank? Huh. Organisms consumption edit? Is that what we were looking at here? No, this is pages. I see. But no, there's a 1 there. So why is this blank? Oh, that's edit. No, this is edit. What's going on? There's a 1 there. Why is there no 1 here? Oh, right, because I'm... Locally, I don't have the code that was... I switched back to main, and I worked on this other change. So, of course, the behavior is different. Thank you. Right. So we can fix that. Let me get this pull request going for this change, and we'll switch back and fix this change in behavior. So that was 128. Close all things. Wait, not 128. That's the baseline. 163. 163. There we go. All right. Get some stuff out of the way. All right. So our consumption components behavior changed a little bit because, yeah, see, it should be a 1 there because the control is set to no, it's not set. Oh, is that, maybe that's, should it default to 1 if nothing is set? Like if we set this to be a 1, yeah, so the issue is that in servings, what we started doing is showing raw servings. If the user hasn't entered anything into raw servings, though, then we should. So raw servings is always going to be a string. It's going to be an empty string initially, and then it will potentially have stuff put into it. So I think what we should be able to do is it will only ever be falsy when it's an empty string. And then in that case, we should use the value of servings, which is this const value we're taking updated servings, and if it's null, then we're using the provided servings. So essentially, this becomes a show the raw servings, that is the raw value entered by the user. And then if the user hasn't entered anything, well, that's interesting, because then updated servings wouldn't be. That's kind of redundant. Are we using servings anywhere else? Yeah, for calculation purposes. Yes. Yeah. Okay, I think that is a little weird, but it's the reasonable thing to do. Okay, so let's. I don't like how it puts that same message every time I look at this. So what we've changed here is show calculated show initial servings if user has not entered any value yet is what we're changing. Okay. There we go. Well, getting some stuff done today. Okay, so I'll have the remaining things in our up next column. Let's see. So handle auth failures and API calls automatically by sending use. I think there's a typo there. Sending user to. I'm not sure what holding view is supposed to mean, but I imagine. Okay, and then show loading state and prompt for relogin. So we want. Ensure that API calls that fail because we aren't auth will tell the user what's going on, hide content that might not be there, so in general get them to a login screen that lets them get back to what they were doing once they log in. Right? Right, so this is basically, if we're navigating around, let's say, I have this tab open, and I don't know about you, but I have multiple desktops, multiple tabs, lots of things going on. If I were to, leave this tab and come back to it in a month, I might not be logged in anymore, but I might start clicking around things, maybe. So let's think of two scenarios here. Two that come to mind, right? One is somehow the front end keeps track of how idle the front end has been, and just like auto decides, okay, well the user must be logged out, so I'll move them somewhere else. And that adds a complexity on top of the complexity of obviously the authentication, like the thing that's keeping track of whether we're logged in or not on the back end is exists and is doing that work anyway. So why would we re-implement it on the front end? Maybe we could instead, and I think the idea behind what this item is here is that if we do anything in the UI that talks to the back end, like look at the previous day, see we made a TRPC request there. So we should hopefully be able to detect if we're not logged in. And in that case, we should get the user to the login screen, some kind of login screen, in such a way that the user will be able to log in and come right back to what they were trying to do, right? So if they're on this page and they tried to navigate to this day, so now they loaded this page, got an error, we should take them to a login screen of some kind, whether that's a separate page or something embedded here or something, I don't know, and then bring them back to this page. A lot of apps do that. I think that's a common kind of workflow. We can't just do that for any kind of error, though. It specifically needs to be an error that indicates that the user was not logged in, which we should be throwing some kind of specific error from our procedures, from something. What is... Okay, so we have authorization, we have authentication, so we have auth options. So if we are, let's see, I have disable cache, I have, do I have preserve requests? Request blocking. So if I were to log out, oh, I didn't preserve request. Ooh, okay. This is a separate issue, which is that if we're not logged in, we shouldn't try to be getting the user settings. Maybe we shouldn't be trying to get the user settings on the front page anyway. In fact, this deserves its own item. Don't attempt to retrieve user settings on non-authenticated views. Put that up here somewhere. This item is going to go back to the icebox. Super not important, but felt really important when I was doing a lot of the design stuff back before I even was using Material UI. I had an idea for like a little icon that would kind of tie in with the theme and things, but I don't care about that anymore. Oh right, we're not on the branch anymore that has the dismissible errors, right? So, but here we see a demo of what happens, right? So we get an unauthorized. Oh, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the coding stream. Yeah? Yeah, mostly front end. We got some backend stuff with Next.js and TRPC and Prisma. Was doing some database migration stuff earlier. But right now, kind of a mix. So I'm trying to figure out how I want this to behave when, like, the user gets logged out. Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's kind of nice, you know. My day job, I do some coding still these days, but it's still not stuff where it's mostly not front end, and it's mostly not stuff where you know, this is something where I'm the user of it, and I get to, you know, say exactly what's important and what's not, and all that, and bit lower stakes. Have I ever worked with Nix? Reading and nerding out on for weekend shenanigans. What is Nix? That sounds familiar. All right. Are you talking about Nix as in Nix OS? Because that is something I had a laptop running at one point, but I'm not sure if you're talking about something else. It's kind of a problem in the software space is that multiple projects have the same name. Yeah, the Nix build system. Nice. Yeah, Not done too much with that. Yeah, NixOS is built on Nix. Yeah, I like there were a couple of things where I needed some software installed, and I did like copy pasted some stuff basically to make it so that something would be installed. Um, I think I still have in a private GitHub repo like some like the OS config stuff for my old laptop that had NixOS. That I think about a year ago, I ended up wiping that laptop and just putting like Ubuntu or something on it because I had lost all of my recollection about how to maintain that. But yeah, NixOS, I think I played around with that. I wanted to do like a really custom system, so I did. I don't know if you've heard of the Linux from Scratch project. Which is just kind of like a step by step how to like build your own Linux distro from source. Just to like download all the tarballs and build everything yourself and create a whole distro, a basic one anyway. I did that, and then I think after that I came across NixOS, and that seemed like a better option. Stage one, Gen two, yeah. Um, yeah, I think I forget the order of Linux distros, but Gen two was definitely in there at one point. There's been a lot of distros over the years, but yeah, my main like dev machine back like 5+ years ago was a Linux machine, uh, and then for work I ended up switching to. Yeah, you have a NixOS laptop now. Nice. Ended up switching to Windows for like work stuff and for gaming, and I'm dealing with a lot of Windows the past few years. Dealing with it. Um, how long have you been using NixOS? About 5 months. All right, I imagine you have a pretty good handle on it at this point, then. You brought back memories of like trying to, yeah, because that was on Gen 2, right? Trying to get Steam set up and playing like Windows games on Linux with Wine and like World of Warcraft and all that. Ah, it was such a. It mostly worked once it got working. That was a while ago. So I think looking at this response, I think if we just look for whenever we get an unauthorized error in the front end and do something there. Where can we do that? I mean, we have this request slice that has some thunks. That's like where we're intercepting errors anyway. So that might be a good place to do that. All right, we're already like, oh, we got a rejected request. Action error message. Is this error the same as this? Right, so if we did something like if action.error.message equals unauthorized. Yeah, something like that. And by the way, sorry, don't worry about distracting me. I mean, if I wanted to not be distracted, I probably would just not stream this. I really appreciate, having folks in chat. So don't let that bother you. This looks neat. I've used Next.js only once and just for a hello world. Yeah, I don't know for this app specifically. I don't know. I mean, besides it being a thing that's like serving, acting as the back end and is allowing me to like hook into RPC and stuff. If I were to do this over again, because this project I started a while ago initially. Like I first started working on this. I wish there was a way to like sort from the beginning. We've accumulated a lot of commits, but sometime last year. Yeah, here we go. August of last year. Using Create Next App. And if I were to do this again, I might have just like, done something with Express. Oh, hey, how's it going? I'm trying to think of how Gvozden Mutovada is probably not how you're supposed to pronounce that, if at all, but welcome. But yeah, so what was I saying? I might have just used Express instead of Next.js. Like there's all sorts of cool things going on in Next.js that I feel like I'm probably not going to end up using with this app. Like it's feeling kind of like a weird pairing to have this kind of very front end. What I haven't done, but spent the last however many streams this has been doing, converting to Redux, is to be able to have like offline capabilities, which I am going to come back to, and just not a priority right now. The priority was kind of like addressing the fact that I didn't want to build more without having these foundational things that we need for having offline support. But doing an offline front end, like you can have it in your browser on your phone or whatever, or maybe wrapping it with something to be able to make like a mobile app. And those capabilities don't really seem to mesh with what Next.js is trying to do in terms of like doing server-side rendering and stuff. It's just very opposite. But those kind of things weren't, really what I was thinking about 6-8 months ago. So I don't know if at some point I'll like rip out the Next.js portions of this or not. I mean, maybe I'll change my mind about the offline support. I don't know. Just taking it a little bit at a time, which the Redux conversion is kind of the opposite of that, making a big investment in converting. But we'll see. Okay, I think that other pull request got merged. Yeah, so now we're just down to allow not integer amounts in servings. Just need to update that branch. See if the UI test pass after that. And right, so I think so I was looking at this and I was kind of thinking about how we would solve this, right? This handling API failures due to not being authenticated. And we can see I added that console log in the request slice, which is seems like a good place since we're already intercepting all of the responses when we're making requests. At least that's the case for requests that are going through Redux, but not all of them are. So some of the requests to the backend aren't going through Redux. Right, specifically when we were doing the conversion, I think I said on stream that if the request to the backend is just pulling data and is not something that has to do with like the state of the application, it's more of a go fetch this information about this food item, then we wouldn't try to shoehorn every single network request to go through Redux. So that ends up in putting us in a situation where if we are hold on, let me switch back to main. We don't need to be on this branch anymore. Okay, sure. So how are we handling, if those requests fail in such a way that we're saying, oh, there was a network request that failed and it was due to the fact the user's not authenticated, they need to be sent to the login screen, right? Getting back to what we're trying to figure out how we would do here, right? So here are my notes. So network requests going through the store that get somewhat kind of unauthorized error should trigger a loading state and reauth state. I think some of this, so I wrote this when we were still using RxJS, so I don't know if this would exactly work the same way. And then I also said components that do network requests directly should call action if they get an unauthorized error, which feels pretty weird to me. I don't think I would want to have to, inside of a component that's using let's find an example of a component here that's making a direct request to our backend. So in components, there's probably something in one of these pages. Maybe in food search? No, that's not implemented yet. Obviously, food search is implemented. I just have this higher level component that some of the stuff was to be moved into, and I haven't done that yet. Okay, not that either. What about here? This is dispatching in action, so never mind. That's not implemented. Settings. Let's see. What if I search for .query? Okay, those are stories. Okay, okay, those are procedures. Store slice, food search, diary. Okay. Mutation? Do I not? I surely have a component somewhere that is making a network request directly. I'm not finding it. What if I searched for TRPC, but only included components? Here we go. So here is our consumption component, and it's calling trpc.account.getUserSettings. Why is it doing that? Huh. Oh, wait. Like, this is getting the current user's user settings, but we should be able to get that from the state. So that's a bad example, but we can look at the other ones. Let me to do use Redux store for user settings. And come back to that. Okay, so but these are examples here of like, okay, we want this food item from the backend, and we want to get this information about this meal from the backend as well. So we're doing that, and it would be really strange to, like, here we're handling, if you can call this handling the error. It would be really strange to be like, okay, well, if this is an error, and specifically this is an authorized error, then let's dispatch an action to indicate that. It's like allowing this concern about authentication to leak into these components is pretty odd. And that's something I want to do. So what could we do instead? Maybe this needs some further thought. So we're importing this from utils trpc. So here we're creating this. We're using create trpc next, which knows how to talk to our backend. HTTP batch link. Here's the endpoint that's being served that we're talking to. If we were to get back an error, like, what can we even do here? Right? We can't. If there was some way to, like, hook this mechanism up to the Redux dispatch, so that behind the scenes this could dispatch an action for us, that could be interesting. I don't know. I think I'm going to sleep on this one for a little bit. How do we handle errors when our TRPC query in the front end gets an unauthorized error without adding that logic to any UI components that make those queries? Can we wrap the TRPC call in some way to dispatch an action on error? Question mark. Okay. Alright, so this is a little bit too big of a thing for me to want to jump into now. We got maybe about half an hour left in the stream today before I need to start looking into lunch. So what can we do in half an hour? Are there any easier things here? Let's see. Answering interaction tests for connected diary components. Add more loading skeletons to layout changes. Show food search add review dialogues as second column instead of dialogue. That's going to get involved. If user starts new search from food search view, take user back to results list. Oh, that's interesting. What is this? If user starts new search from food search view, take the user back to result list once loaded. What does that look like? Let me log in again. And this view also needs work. Uh, Interesting. What was that? Ah. Right. All right. So I think we go to the diary view. Let's add. So are we talking about? Let me move this over here. Oh, let's real quick. Let's verify our change. What? Oh. Interesting. So in our interaction test for this component, I guess we just add 300 to the UI. What's going on here? Go to start. Okay. Rerun. Okay, that's how I would expect it to work. But in here, oh right. Again, well no. So this is on chromatic. So why is there 1300 here? That seems odd. Okay, do I want to work on this? Or do I want to work on this? Let me look a little bit further at what's going on with this item here. So if user starts new search from food search view, is that this view? Okay. Oh, ginger. So we get quick results. User starts new search from food search view. Take user back to results list once loaded. Wait, so if I click that, all right. So you can click an item here, and you can search, and we load, but it doesn't take you back to the results list. You have to hit cancel, and I think that's what this request is about. Okay. This should be easy to fix, and then maybe we can circle back to the other one. Yeah, thank you, SpaceX. Alright, so this is definitely something I can do in half an hour. So let's get this sorted out. So, where is this? This is in consumption still. And then, is this all inside of the consumption component? It's got a lot going on. Let's come back to it over and over again. All right, so skip all of that. And then we have consumption actions, nutrient details, graphs, serving size. All right, so this is the consumption component, but it's inside of meal add food dialog, right? So meal add food dialog is this component, which uses the consumption component when food to add is not null, right? So what we want to do specifically though is when, whatever causes us to get a search result, when that changes, right, so this is being passed in as props, but when that changes, food to add should go back to being null. So that we're seeing the results list, because we're only seeing the results list when food to add is null. And search results is not equal to null. So we have search results, we don't have food to add, then we show the results list. So when we get new results, food to add should go back to null. Okay, both of these things are being passed in because this is the unconnected component being wrapped by our connected meal add food dialog. And so here, food to add is coming from the selector, right? Because we connected this all up. Oh, interesting. Wait, what is this? Details? Okay. For a second I was like, this looks like the old thing, but I guess we kept that dialogue type thing. And anyway. Okay, so so many to-dos. Actually, I have a to-do in the backlog to find all the to-dos in the source code and put them into the backlog. So fear not, they won't be forgotten. Anyway, right. So food to add is coming from the select food to add selector, which we're reading there. So I think all we really need to do is when we fulfill either a quick search or a full search, we can simply set food to add back to null. Right, because the results here is being read out, and that's our select results. And that's what's going into search results here and being passed. So yeah, I think this should be relatively straightforward, right? So we just need to find where fulfilled is being set. We'll say state dot food to add is null. And do that there. So whatever kind of search we do, like if we, let's go back to here. If we search for ginger and we click an item and, oh, I didn't mean ginger, I meant bread. No quick results for that, but we did get results. And then I think a better example is if we do this and then we click the full search and we're like, I found that, again with the notifications. It takes us back to the search results, right? If we click the search button, we probably want to see the search results. We don't want to stay on this view and add this if we click that, right? Okay, so that was easy-ish. Did we have an issue created for that? Backlog, convert to issue, yes. All right, and let's bring that over. There we go, in progress. And we'll open a new pull request for that. All right. If user starts new search from food search view, yep, that's it. And this shouldn't even, I don't think we have any interaction tests anyway in Storybook that touch that, so should hopefully all just pass. Of course, maybe we should have tests for it, but I don't want to do that right now. I like tests. I'm not sure I enjoy writing tests as much. All right, so I created the branch. I didn't open the pull request, did I? Auto merge, create. There we go. All right, let's take a look at what's going on with this though. So this was For you, test writing is something I do meditatively when I'm unsure where to go next. Yeah, that's fair. That's a good approach to getting it done. Um, yeah, sometimes I'll do TDD where I'm like, you know, I know what behavior I want it to do, but haven't figured out how to implement it yet. It depends. Right, so we're going to switch back to this. Close all the things. Let's get all out of my way. Switch back to this. Thread-driven development. I have no reference for that. I mean, it's like a lot of the quote unquote methodologies in software development / engineering that things can be taken too far. Oh, I think I see what you mean now. Is that you're threatening with the Nerf gun to drive development? I first read that and I was thinking that the Nerf guns were your defense against TDD. All right. Let's see. Let's close chromatic. I just want to see what's going on here locally. So this was the edit view though. And did we refresh? Storybook should be good. Let me refresh the page. So what we were seeing in chromatic was this was saying this value or something. It's a lot of calories. So if we go back to the interaction, wait. Back to chromatic really quick. Which view was this? Consumption add. Okay. Oh, look at that. And the interaction test fails too, which makes sense. I think I was just looking at the wrong thing before. I was probably looking at edit when I should have been looking at add. So this test, indeed, threatening with Nerf guns is fun. Okay, so consumption stories. So in the add story, we have this interaction test. And we just say basically, okay, so what's supposed to happen is that user event.clear is supposed to clear the servings input. Right? But when you clear it, it still leaves it as 1. And that's what's breaking us. Right. Also, very user unfriendly. To be like, oh yeah, you can't take that 1 out. Whoops. Alright, so that illustrates a bug. Alright, so why is the bug? Well, we have raw servings and it's an empty string because we tried to remove everything. And so we said, if raw servings is an empty string, show servings. So that doesn't really work. This, I think, maybe is where I was thinking of going with onBlur. So onBlur, if raw servings is an empty string, when the user leaves the field, set raw servings to be servings.toString. I feel like that's going to cause problems, though. I mean, updated servings will still be null. Raw servings is just used to show to the user. Maybe that's fine. Let's refresh and see how that behaves. Okay, so now the interaction test passes. We can delete out of the field, and then if we tab out, well, so that's interesting. So we have a 1 there, but it's still an error, and that's wrong. Why is there an error? Because raw servings, yeah. So to make that work, we would also need to set updated servings. I'm less enthused about that, because the idea would be that updated servings represents that we've changed the value in some way. Does that matter, though? I'm recalling a conversation, it might have been in the last stream, about using something like some kind of form management library. And this is why you would, because these edge cases get interesting in terms of form behavior. But we're not doing anything right now where we're tracking whether or not this input has been changed to then dictate like what the buttons do or anything, which we probably need to do. But let's just dig the hole a little deeper for now. And that way we can see how far it'll go. All right, so if I delete this and I tab out, it's 1, but it's valid. But I can enter in a value. I can put in a decimal value. That's all good. Okay, so I think that fixes our issue. And doesn't add any new issues that we're going to be surprised about. Only default the serving input to 1 on blur. That's what we've done. All right, so we're kind of coming up on the 3-hour mark. What am I gonna say? This is gonna be it for the stream for today. Gonna be streaming Minecraft tomorrow. Next week, we'll have the coding stream on Sunday. I don't really have anything special planned for that, but a week from Monday is for those of us in the U.S. know it's Memorial Day here, and I think I'll be doing a longer stream. I'll probably start earlier in the day. Exact details TBD, but lots of Minecraft. It'll be normally it's modded Minecraft Monday. Well, a week from tomorrow will be Memorial Day modded Minecraft Monday. So lots of M's. Doing more Creed Astral. And then normal streams throughout the week as per schedule between now and then. And after then as well. So yeah, so that is going to be it for today. Hopefully those last changes will merge in cleanly, and we'll have that as a base to start the next stream. Yeah, there's a limit for coding streams, how long it can go. 1, because it's about lunchtime, and 2, because between talking through everything verbally and thinking things, it's a bit much to go much longer anyway. So until next time, thanks for hanging out and chatting and all that, and see you later.